Hey, what's up, everybody? Benji Bruce here with SpeakingLifestyle.com. And earlier today, I actually made a post in the Facebook group about how I usually ask a lot of speakers a question. Once you sign up for the lists, I send an email out and I basically ask, like, what do you speak about and what do you need help with? And I posted this in the Facebook group. And what I realized is well, 100% of the answers, everyone says what they speak about. So everyone says, oh, I'm a motivational speaker or I'm this type of speaker. Here's what I speak about. But only like 1% actually asks a question about what they need help with and how they want to grow their business. And I found that interesting because I realized that the speakers who make money and the ones who don't, the ones who make money are the ones who always ask questions. They're the ones who are always learning. In fact, I even had someone who actually said that they don't need help with anything right now and they're good to go. And so naturally, I clicked on their website because I thought to myself, well, if they're good to go, they must be like Tony Robbins status. And of course, the website could have been better. They could have done a ton of different things. But because they didn't ask a question, there's no way they could possibly get to the next level. Even a billionaire like Ray Dalio, he always asks himself, what don't I know? So I posted this in the Facebook group because I just find it interesting that a lot of people, they're willing to talk about what they do and their opinions and all this, but what they're not doing is asking questions. If you read the Sam Walton biography, the Walmart guy, the guy who created Walmart, you'll notice one thing about this guy. He did not sit there and talk about himself. He did the exact opposite. He just sat there and listened. He took massive, massive notes. He kept learning the business. If you're not asking questions, if you're not asking the right questions, you won't grow your business. I'm making this because Daryl or Darrell, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name right, but he actually asked quite a bit of questions. So I figured I'd just make this instead of type everything out. So this is going to be a quick Q&A here. So the first question he asked, he said, let me see. He said, in your experience, is it solid year round to get speaking gigs? So basically, all 12 months, is it solid as far as the gigs? Well, I don't really pay attention to which month for the gigs. I simply pay attention to how many gigs I do in a year. So that's what I focus on. I only focus on just getting more or getting less depending on what I want to do with the free time. But that's all I really focus on. I don't really care about how if June is better than July or if July is better than December. I don't really care too much about that. Now he says, I know in the music business, building more connections, establishing. All right, let's skip this. And if an organization is a nonprofit, would they be a good place to pursue as far as pay goes in the long run? Okay. So nonprofits, they do have money. They will tell you, almost all of them will tell you that they don't have money and they want you to speak for free. But 99.9999% of them actually do have money. What a nonprofit does is all the money comes into the nonprofit. So they're essentially running their business like a real business. The difference is that at the end of the year, they just shouldn't have any money in the business pretty much. And that's actually where a lot of your money is going to come in as well, because at the end of the year with nonprofits, they have to spend their money. So they'll give out bonuses and all this stuff. So it's actually easier to get gigs at the end of the year with a nonprofit, but it might be harder to get the gigs just because they're so used to asking speakers and just asking people for free stuff. Even though they have money, so it might be harder, but there is money there. Now he asks a question a little more, what inspires you and drives you? So what inspires and drives me? Well, basically, I just like building a business. I mean, I've always kind of liked the idea of creating something. I like how you can master your mind. You can just master your own reality and create something. So that's kind of what pretty much drives me. And then he said, and how big of a role do you believe people around you have in your achievement as far as in the long run? Well, I believe that's a huge role. The people you're around, That's why I'm very careful about who I'm around, who I listen to, things like that. So I truly believe that. And then, of course, when you're hiring people, that's also huge. I mean, you always have to work with the best when you're hiring people. So the people around you definitely matter. Just your environment in general, it really does matter. And I personally, I don't let anyone who's not basically not in accordance with what my goals are. I kind of don't really hang around them. It's not, a lot of people say, oh, I don't hang around negativity and things like that. And sure, you don't want to hang around negativity, but when someone just kind of says things like, oh, hey, how's the weather going? And oh, there's sports, and oh, the Broncos are playing and all that. I don't really hang around that stuff because I'm just not interested in that. So I simply just hang around entrepreneurs, business-minded people in general. So I really believe that who you're around really does influence how you think. Then he asked, do you have any mentors, or did you have any mentors? I actually didn't have any mentors because I kind of grew up, it was just in a single home. So, well, a single parent, it was 3 kids. We didn't really have much money at the beginning. So I didn't really have any mentors. I just read a lot. So that was pretty much it. Next thing he says, and did they make a noticeable difference in how you do business? Well, the books definitely made a noticeable difference. I always tell people to read, just read nonstop, get new information 24/7, because it really does make a difference. I mean, it's crazy the amount of difference that reading makes. Let's see, what else did he ask? And he said, I've got a lot more questions in regards to mingling in groups, making connections, networking, but I ask a lot of questions. Okay, let me see where the question is here. Are there any books on speaking or maybe networking that you'd recommend? Well, there are actually a couple of things. Well, number one, I of course recommend Never Eat Alone, but this is a big but. Most people who network, they kind of do it kind of like the old school business way. They're like, hey, what do you need help with? And I can help you with this. And they kind of just say that without really meaning it. And what I mean by that is, you can essentially go to LinkedIn and you'll see this. You'll see everyone do this. People will send you a message on LinkedIn. They'll say, hey, my business is about SEO, and if you need any help with your business, then let me know. That is not the way to network. That's the wrong way to do things. And I also see this when people approach very high level business people, and someone who's like a billionaire, multimillionaire, someone to go up to them and they'll say like, hey, can I help you with your business? Can I help you with a project? And what they're essentially doing is they want the other person to do the work for them. So they want the billionaire to come up with what they need the other guy to help them with. Instead, what you need to do is you need to go up to a billionaire, someone like Bill Gates. Bill Gates knows, or well, you should know that Bill Gates is doing things like with education. He's doing things like he wants to create a new condom, things like that. So if you go up to Bill Gates and you say, hey, Bill Gates, I want to help you out with philanthropy. Well, in his mind, he's going to say like, okay, that doesn't really help at all. But if you go up to him and you say, hey, Bill, I've got this new condom that I just made, and man, it's really good, and oh, you got to check it out. We should get together. I'll show it to you. Well, now he's going to be much more interested. That's how you really network. It's not just saying, hey, give me your card and things like that. Another thing for networking that very few people know about is the pickup artist world, PUAs. So look that up, pickup artists. Look up a book called The Game. And what this is, what it essentially is, it's about picking up women. But in the bigger perspective, it's more about communication skills. And these guys, they've essentially taken the communication skills and they got it on point. I mean, they're so good at communication skills that they have it in like a system. They know how people are going to respond to what they say, what they do, and they've really broken it down. So I really recommend studying these pickup artist guys because they're really good with communication skills in general. Let's see. Another question he asked: is there a certain expert who you learned a lot from? Without a doubt, it's Dan Kennedy. I like Dan Kennedy's stuff, his time management. I just like a lot of his stuff. So it's definitely Dan Kennedy. How big of a role does inner vision play out in this business? Inner vision is 100% of the speaking business. I realized that what I kind of thought to myself, I noticed that there were a lot of speakers out there, and a lot of speakers are not getting gigs. And they know they have enough information on what to do to get the gig. They know they should have a better website. They know they should have videos. They know they should be contacting events. But they know this and they still don't do it. And I realized that the inner vision, the inner psychology is what makes the difference. It's everything. I can't stress that enough. Like if you just kind of have this go, 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 this aggressive mindset of I'm going to do whatever it takes to get on stage, then you're going to get on stage. You're going to start speaking and you're going to get paid more. But if you kind of just lay back and you're like, oh, okay, well, I'll have my website up in a month or two, and oh, we'll make our one sheet, and oh, that takes you another 3 weeks. And if you're kind of doing that, then it's going to take you a long time, if ever, to actually build your speaking business. And I want to be 100% real with everybody, because I see too much advice to where the advice is just, it's more interested in just trying to sell you something rather than telling you the truth, because the truth is what people don't buy. If I tell you that in order to build a speaking business, it's going to take you a year just to get it off the ground a little bit, people aren't going to buy that. But if I tell you, hey, I can help build your speaking business in 10 days, well, of course, everyone's going to buy that. Now, people might say, oh, no, I'm not going to buy the 10-day one. But that's not how they react. That's not how they respond. So I want you to understand that there are only a few speakers who will make it, and that's because those few speakers have this inner drive, and you can see it, you can sense it in the speakers who actually make it. Look at Tony Robbins, look at all these guys, you can see it, you can just sense that aggressiveness that they have, and that's what you need to have if you really want to grow. Right now, it's 1 a.m. in the morning. I just got done doing an event. I saw this, and I decided to make this this recording here. That's the type of drive that you need to have. You shouldn't be like, oh, I'm just gonna go to sleep and things like that. You kind of just, you're always like, go, go, go. And I mean, of course you rest, of course you go to sleep or whatever, but you still want to have that aggressive type of drive to where you just want to get on stages. And then he says, the last question: is there a difference between how you approach corporate gigs compared to small businesses or smaller groups? There really is no difference. I focus on the people who have the money. If they can't afford it, we might look for a sponsor, but more often than not, we just go on to the next one. So I just look for people who can afford me, and that's the thing. A lot of speakers, they basically speak to a market that can't afford them. So maybe they want to make 500 grand in the speaking business, but they're speaking to such a small market that they're not even if they were at the top 1%, they still wouldn't be able to make the 500 grand. And that's what I tell speakers to do. Before you enter a market, you want to look at the top people in the industry, look to see how much they're making. And if they're making a lot of money, even if you're like at the bottom 1%, you're still probably making a lot of money. So it's kind of like what I was telling my brother. My brother's in the fitness world, and he was doing these competitions. And in the competition, the Mr. Olympia is like the competition of all competitions. In first place for Mr. Olympia, I believe it's like $1 million, or maybe a little less, maybe a little more. But basically, the number one guy in the fitness industry, in the fitness bodybuilding competition industry, is only making $1 million. That's not a lot of money, especially if you're number one. I mean, if you're number one in the software industry, you're like Zuckerberg status, and you're a billionaire. If you're number one in the motivational speaking category, you're Tony Robbins. And I don't know how much Tony Robbins makes. I think his net worth is like 500 million. I think his company is like around $1 billion. But number one makes a lot. If number one in your industry isn't making a lot of money, then that means you need to get out of that industry. So I tell speakers to really kind of line up where your end game is, where your goal is, with where what you're currently doing. So the reason I don't really approach small businesses or smaller groups is just because they don't have the money. So it's not something that I'm going to do in the long run. I'm more focused on the bigger markets and really just growing into the bigger markets. So that's what I focus on. But really, going back to the earlier question, it really is 100% psychology. So make sure you do focus on that inner game.